My name is Psyche-Delic. This is Marcus, and you are listening to Fallen Hour Radio. Well, welcome back to the podcast, and I hope you guys have actually been going back to our last podcast and listening to those. We've been getting a lot of new listeners, especially. It's always when we take some time off.
I know.
It's like every time we take time off, there's always these new...
major spike.
Yeah, there's a major spike. There's people listening to the podcast, downloading the podcast, watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and people commenting and leaving us reviews and crap like that.
Yeah.
And people reaching out, wanting to work with us.
Did you say "in crap"?
Yeah. So so the thing about our previously announced projects are put on hold because of this whole pandemic. And the thing about the podcast is we like to create things just to get out. We're not looking for any exposure. We're not looking for things of that nature. We're just to start creating and give people kind of an escape from that world. And that's one of the reasons we don't really mention anything going on in the world.
Like an escape from what's going on.
Yeah. And it's kind of like an escape for ourselves as well, to just jump in the podcast, talk about some random stuff, and just forget everything that's happening, and also bring our audience into that world of just not caring about what's happening for 45 minutes.
Yeah. 45 minutes. So I guess this is going to be 45 minutes.
But we wanted to sit down and do this podcast because it's been especially a month, because Marcus has not been to my house in about a month. No, we both been busy doing our own things and especially working on new projects, and we haven't quit talking about and planning out future projects, especially for Halloween.
Yeah. That's always like a big thing for us.
Yeah, this is like the biggest part of the
year.
It's
like we do this like every year. We did it once. We're still fairly new.
We planned it for one.
We do it every Halloween.
We planned it for one Halloween, and then we didn't do it. Waited an entire year.
We overbooked, I think, on Halloween, and we had days.
Yeah.
We tried to pop something out like.
Oh God! Week. Last Halloween was horrible. Like
no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna put it out, blah blah blah, every week. But the videos, we're gonna make all these videos.
2 podcasts a week.
It's like too much. So,
but
like the videos, I mean, the podcast would have been fine, but because we have such a visual element to it,
right,
is what really took all the time. So,
right.
Yeah.
So this year, this is kind of the reason we sat down to the podcast, is we want to just basically formulate our idea on camera. But we've planned this previously, and we've been talking about this nonstop, is planning this out, sitting down, literally having meetings for hours and hours, just sitting there and going over ideas, which for a big portion of what you do, especially with the podcast and things of that nature, that's half of the work.
Yeah.
Is sitting down and actually just hammering out an idea so it doesn't come out stupid.
Like last year's?
Yeah, that was like a half-baked. We were shooting every podcast as for the Urban Legends series in October and editing.
It was fun. I mean, it was really fun. It was just, wow.
Really, really busy.
Lot of time, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even have time to really add a lot of visuals like we wanted to, but we're doing all that this year. So
we've actually been investing in new equipment. We especially got a new camera that we're working with, and that this camera is amazing. And they just announced
it's fun just to play with.
Yeah, and they just announced that they're revealing putting out a new camera of the version we bought. And it just pisses me off.
You get this now, like, oh, it's like the new iPhone. Yeah. Oh, you just buy it, like, oh, it's so quick, and they're like, no, this one's faster, and then yours seems slow.
It's been years since they released this camera,
but iPhone slows your phone down on purpose.
Yeah, it's been the best camera on the market, especially in low light. It's got the biggest sensor on the market.
It's amazing. I love it. Just playing with it at nighttime. It's so perfect.
But they're putting out an even bigger sensor I was like, gosh, damn it. We're going to have to buy that one now.
I know, now we
coming
gotta get that
September.
one. So now we're going to have 2 badass cameras.
Yeah. Hopefully this one Marcus helps
I mean-
pay for. But we've actually been investing in new equipment. We're getting, especially like we've announced, so the paranormal investigating isn't off the table. That's one of the things we can actually do,
Yeah.
especially in the times we're in right now. Is especially if it's just me, you, Lethea, and just going out there and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping our group small. But that's
like something we've been putting off for years.
Yeah.
Talking about doing
Putting it
that
off.
even before we even started doing this. But I was like,
Do I really want to mess
we'll
with
get to that. We'll get to that.
So we've come to this point to where the Urban Legends series is going to be something we push over the top every single year.
Yeah.
And
Try to like top our last year.
yeah.
Every time.
And the thing about how we work though is like once we do something cool, whether that's videography work, editing work, we always try to include that in podcasts going forward.
Yeah.
And video work going forward. So especially this year we're jumping into
we did this, we don't want to take a step down. We always try to keep
making
making
better.
it like a
Make
step
it better.
up and better and better and better. Yeah.
And this year, we've invested. Now, the time that we've been off from the podcast, we've invested in new camera equipment. We've invested in new editing software. We've got every single Adobe editing software possible,
Yeah.
and we have that in our arsenal. We are jumping into. You're working on some new music as well,
Yeah.
and we're working also. Now, this is the biggest.
Yeah, like all the ones we had, they just popped them out in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We're sitting down ready to record. Like, oh, make a song real quick. I'm like, damn it.
No brain
Trying to
farts
make
here.
it. No, this will be the theme for this one. Like, okay, this is the theme for Fallen Hour. No, that was for that podcast.
that'll
Now
be a
do
thing,
another
though.
one.
Like if you ever make it, Marcus, like it's because we pushed you.
I always feel like they could have been better. I'm like, I made them in like 5 minutes.
Right. But this,
There's a baby.
there is a baby.
And there's no baby here.
Should we just keep going?
Yeah, go ahead. Just
Well,
keep going.
You know, just got to deal with it. We got family. We got families.
Family stuff going on back
Yeah.
here. So
So, now this one we've especially been waiting to announce. We especially been working towards getting this out, and this year we are jumping into the theatrical elements. We're jumping into the horror genre now.
yeah,
We're not only working on
I'm really excited about that.
yeah, we're not only working on a horror podcast, but we're working on jumping into a horror genre of creating our own
Yeah.
films.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, it's kind of funny looking back on everything, how this whole thing progressed and evolved. Like, we started with just some conspiracy, podcast, and then it went into paranormal, and then everybody bugged us for more paranormal,
Yeah, and inviting us places and
inviting
whatnot.
us places. Then they started inviting us to do paranormal, like, hunts and stuff like that, and like ghost hunts and stuff like that.
It's crazy though.
When we
'cause-
weren't even getting into that yet. Like, we were planning on it, but we started getting those invites. Like, okay, we got to do this now.
and we're very fortunate to live in a place to that where like no big news happens.
Yeah.
So we've been published in the newspaper over the past couple years, like once a year at least.
Mhm.
And not only that, they push these newspapers out to different counties
Yeah,
and
like
things
all over
Montana.
Yeah, all over Montana.
And it's kind of pushed us to a place where we have to be accountable now to how we are creating our podcast, how we are creating our video work, and we don't want to hype things up in the newspaper and things of that nature, and then someone comes to our podcast and like, this is crap.
That video was horrible.
But the big announcement is we are working on a short horror film for Halloween.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like we talked about doing a short film, for a long time, but now we really want to do this, and we kind of have a cool idea, I think. So
Yeah.
kind of ties everything together, which is, I'm really excited about that. Thought it was kind of cool. So
we've actually been working on a storyline for the past like month, I would say. And now we're still playing it safe, but we have some characters coming on board, people we work with, especially some of our friends coming on board, and basically just kill them off. And it's going to be a short horror film, but I was telling Marcus, it's like not the way we do things. It's
Yeah.
We're gonna go like 45 minutes, and
I know. Like we started out like trying to write something that's like barely 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then it's 20 minutes, no, 30 minutes. And then we're gonna make a full-fledged movie. It's gonna come out like so.
So that's all right. This Halloween, we are going to be announcing our Urban Legends lineup very, very soon. We're going to be shooting within this month and September. Mm-hmm. We have a deadline of October 7th.
Yeah.
We are actually entering this film and our podcast into some contests out there, trying to get some exposure, maybe hopefully get a deal with some major podcasting platform. And we are just starting to move forward in that direction, as actually looking at the logistics of things and actually getting into the business side of things, which is like basically our forte. Is like we're always working with businesses and doing things of that nature anyways. So bringing that element to the podcast, we're going to push it forward, but that it'll have nothing. It will not leak over.
We've been too busy like pushing everybody else's businesses and stuff like that. You forget to push our own.
Yeah. So, but it's not going to leak over to the podcast. You're not going to hear about business or anything of that nature, unless you guys are really into that. Then we'll start in the whole new thing. But we are especially jumping into that genre. But now this Halloween, we are going to be announcing a lineup. Now we're kind of debating on whether to do 2 podcasts a week like we did last year, but we'd have to start filming right away.
No.
So
let's not do that again.
So if it does come out that way,
we'll start.
So it could be like a once a week podcast.
We can start like recording everything early and then just start popping them out right away.
So. But still find some way to fill the week with content.
Yeah.
Whether that's going live on Facebook, Instagram, putting cool photos out there, engaging with the fans out there, and especially engaging with other podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've been lining up venues, especially for to shoot, whether that's the Moss Mansion. We've reached out to them. We've reached out to a vape shop in Billings to hopefully do some cool shots in there. Now the thing about this horror film is we live in an area, and we're extremely fortunate that a lot of times there's dead spaces.
Yeah.
No one's driving around.
There's like absolutely nobody out.
Yeah, even in the bigger city, there's especially
like bare streets.
Yeah, but it's the biggest city here.
Yeah.
But it's our plan is to cover these local areas in a way that they have never been covered before, and make it basically creating our own reality and our own universe, and making it strange.
Yeah.
And making that part of the podcast going forward. But we are going to be releasing a new podcast every week starting now. Again, Marcus. And
we're just kind of like basically working on a couple different things at once, like all the time.
Right.
So we're going to be popping out at new episodes while planning our further episodes, getting our Halloween lineup ready, and making that lineup, and then also while filming this horror video.
So basically, all of September we're going to be shooting this horror film and editing it all as we go, and then getting that submitted to these contests on the 7th. And we are not dropping the short horror film until Halloween night.
Yeah.
Now that's going to take over our podcast. That's going to be basically the piece of content we're releasing on Halloween night is this short horror film.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it really good. I mean, we're going to stick to creating a quality piece for everyone to watch at home. It's not going to be just thrown together.
Yeah, just not like half-assed.
Yeah.
Like we want to go all out on this thing. So.
Like we've invested in this new editing software, and we were actually able to get into like gore. I mean, we were able to make things happen, like our head being chopped off and things of that nature.
Yeah. People getting impaled and
it's gonna be fun.
Basically, all that good slasher movie stuff.
So leading up to October, I know you had some ideas. Why don't you expand on those?
Yeah, like kind of in light of the whole horror thing we're getting into, I wanted to start doing kind of like a sub-series of horror icons and the stories behind them and what inspired them,
right?
Like the true stories and stuff, or legends that inspired like Jason,
like
Friday the 13th,
like Leatherface and Ed Gein
Leatherface and Freddy Krueger. Like there's always stories behind those, and I just wanted to do that, like leading up to this whole thing with this horror theme and this horror movie that we're doing, kind of tie those together, kind of leading up to this video. So
I mean, especially to me, especially like watching TV networks, especially growing up, you want to get into that feel. Yeah. Especially getting into September and October.
Yeah.
Is you want to, because Halloween's been my favorite holiday since I was born. So it's like once September hits, it's like you want your whole entire ambiance to change. You want everything to change. You want the TV stations to start doing things that are more Halloween.
I almost thought you were going to say Halloweeny.
No, I said that last year. Said that last year. You gave me crap for it. I also said your Halloween just got a little Halloweener. Freaking Bob's Burgers.
All right.
But that's going to be basically the theme going forward, is we're going to be transitioning and testing out footage, and we're going to be possibly putting that out there on the podcast just to give you guys something to watch at home and watch the progression. Yeah. And there will be no behind-the-scenes footage released until maybe after Halloween.
Yeah.
Of how we actually shot the podcast, how we shot the video, places we're going.
Maybe just like promo photos and stuff like that, right. Or art and stuff like that. Yeah.
And the big thing about this year is we are launching a merch line, and we've actually got some appointments coming up this week. We're scanning some of Faraway Fine Art's art pieces from last year.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing a merch series with them. It's going to feature their art pieces, whether that's on cups, posters, things that nature, notebooks if we get into, or sketchbooks, things that nature, just
even like stickers, stuff like that. Yeah.
And if it interests anybody, if this video gets some, if this movie gets some views and people actually, or this is like their favorite movie, then we're actually going to look at maybe raffling off some of the pieces we've used, like whether that's like props or our notes of creating the movie and things of that nature, because we have a notebook where we're actually writing in and creating this piece. Is just send it out there. Like if they shred it, they shred it. If they don't want it, they don't want it. But we have a new merch series coming. We're especially looking and doing things like photography. We were getting into videography even more so.
Yeah. And
trying to lend that into the podcast. And you are reaching out to other podcasts to see if we can collaborate and get our voices out there even more.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else there, Marcus?
See if anybody wants to be involved in this whole thing. So, yeah.
So we are actually looking, and we were actually trying to cast some voice actors, if possible. And if you guys are a podcast listening out there and you guys want to be a part of this horror film, be a part of our podcast, we are looking for voice actors. And if you guys are able to do a video just like we do with the podcast and shoot the podcast that way, just the short clip, that scores some more points for you.
Yeah, just get a hold of us and we'll let you know like what we want you to kind of shoot or talk about with this video. So
right.
Yeah.
Anything else there? Some weird stuff's been happening.
You like creep me out for a second because you're just staring in the corner. So, like, what the hell did you see?
Just to give you guys a little taste about, I don't know, jump into a little sub-subject here, is every year when we announce this, or when we lead up to announcing, every year, like we've done it multiple years, but when we've announced, especially the Urban Legends series last year, a whole slew of weird activity started happening around our house.
Sometimes that stuff inspired the subject we were talking about. Yeah. Or, like things like that. Whether it's kind of like a ghost story or something creepy or something that almost has to do with like folklore or legends, something like that would always kind of happen that would spark that idea. Where we get in. Why do you keep looking over there?
I don't know. It's like when I'm like, I work out almost every morning, so I'll do pull-ups like in my doorway.
Yeah.
And I seriously think that there's something standing there in the bathroom, or if I'm working out in there, it's like I see this big,
like, usually I'd say you're just creeping yourself out, but there's been some really weird things going on.
It's not like I don't get like creeped out, but it's like I see something there.
Yeah.
And I think it's somebody, but I'm home alone. Like the weirdest thing that happened was I saw a silhouette standing in the doorway. I look over and it's my cat, Craven, the 3-legged cat.
It's a tripod.
Yeah.
Don't slurp your cup in the mic.
We had a weird instance where Alethea was sitting there cutting my hair, and just out of nowhere, it was dead silent in the house, and then Marilyn Manson starts playing on my computer out of nowhere. Or I'm home alone, and a kid's toy, a baby toy, starts going off by itself, where you have to actually press the button.
It's like you have to push the button. It's not one of those like touch sensor ones.
Yeah, and a few nights ago, we're watching TV, and I only have one remote to my TV, and in my bedroom, I have like two remotes. In our living room, we're sitting there watching a movie, and then the movie just stops. And I'm like, what the heck? I was like, am I sitting on the remote? And it stops, and it starts going forward, or backwards, did she say?
Yeah.
And she's looking at me like, do you have the remote? And we look on the coffee table, the remote's sitting on the coffee table.
So it starts like rewinding.
Right.
And then it stops.
Yeah.
And it starts going forward.
Yes.
And it's one of those remotes that isn't like a sensor. You have to click it and push it.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like a click wheel.
Weird stuff.
Like all this stuff starts happening.
And then some weird stuff's been happening to you too. I don't know if you want to get into that or announce it later.
Probably not. Yeah. But like part of the kind of like a little thing we want to put in this video is kind of involve or shoot things that happen to us.
Right.
Or stories that happen to other people. Involve that in this video.
Mm-hmm.
Start doing stuff like that, or try to do that at least.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we've been doing, is incorporating some of the things that actually happen in our life and put that into...
Or incorporate stuff that we talked about in the podcast.
Yeah. And once we release this movie, we are going to bring that theatrical element even more so with... man, I've been saying that a lot lately since you've been saying that crap.
What?
More so. I remember you said that the first time. I was like, wow, Marcus, more so. We're actually starting to think about including a theatrical element to each podcast, and not just the intros.
Yeah.
Is incorporate a theatrical element to every podcast. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did. That's what I looked over there. Man, these things are sensitive.
I know. I don't know why they're so sensitive
these
today.
Mics.
Yeah. It's like we're hearing
something creaking open.
Hearing babies and things.
It's probably a door upstairs.
Right. So is there anything else you want to talk about there?
Yeah, I know there was some stuff, but I
know you're going to end
my mind's all over the place right
We're going to end the podcast and you'll be like, oh, you forgot to mention that. I'm like, gosh, damn it.
Yeah.
So if you guys are out there listening, just to mention it really quickly, if you guys are out there watching us on Facebook, I'll probably start publishing this on Instagram. I've been trying to... I'm a social media marketer.
Yeah.
I work with businesses and I help them get engagement and crap like that, and done nothing like that for our page.
I know. I'm always getting on them for that. Like,
it's like,
you know how to market all these businesses and stuff, but you don't know how to market yourself.
Yeah.
Hell is wrong.
Like, I got
you.
a certificate for marketing and things of that nature, and I talk to like world class freaking marketers. Like, I've known a few. Well, I know this one in New York who talks to me quite often, and don't do it for the podcast.
I know, he's like failing himself.
But what the hell was I gonna say?
he tries to get on me and like, oh, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. I'm like, why aren't you doing it?
All right, so
you're literally a marketer and you're not even marketing. So
I'm going to start looking into getting more social media channels. There's a lot of new social medias rolling out, especially in 2020. A really, really crazy year, but a really good year for marketing, especially with all these businesses going under and things of that nature. It's a really good year for marketers. I'm looking at...
Way to see the silver lining there.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It is. People have been saying horrible things. I guess that's mine. I was just telling him before I started the podcast too. I said something dumb and I was like, God, I can't say stuff like that anymore. I can't say dumb stuff because people get pissed off about it.
He almost made it sound like it was a good thing. Oh, they're going under. This is our time.
Yeah. But we're looking at starting a new social media channel. So if you guys are on Instagram, things of that nature, we're going to be starting to do giveaways as well. So we're launching a merch series. And as soon as we get those, because we are getting these very, very soon.
Yeah.
And as soon as we get those pieces, we are going to be starting raffling off things. Not raffling, but starting somewhat like
some giveaways.
Yeah, so if you go like us on Instagram, you go like us on YouTube, you share the YouTube video, quite possibly we'll just send you a cup or send you a poster or something.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things coming like that. We were actually going to. I want to start doing this. Is start publishing certain things on different platforms, but in a different way. So there's Instagram. We'll be curating basically our piece of content for Instagram TV in a certain way, and you only have 10 minutes with Instagram. So especially with YouTube and Facebook. So if you guys are watching me on Facebook, watching us on Instagram, YouTube,
I'm surprised you didn't like name drop DJ Ashba.
Oh yeah.
I was waiting for it when you were talking about Instagram and this and that, and I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna say it.
I've had some contact with DJ Ashba. I've been trying to get his attention. I've been going for it and just trying to get his attention.
And he actually shared Fallen Hours. Post.
Yeah.
So I was like, that is cool.
So that's kind of
he
a
added
win
it to his story. Actually.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know who DJ Ashba is, he's a guitarist for 6 a.m. He used to be a guitarist for Guns N' Roses. Has a shop, things of that nature. But okay, so we are going to be launching things of that nature. So if you guys are watching us on Facebook, make sure you go to the podcast and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and search Fallen Hour Radio. Our other podcast at Stones and Bones, search Stones and Bones Radio, stones-bones.com. That's where we'll be hosting a lot of our merch, things of that nature. And if you guys are listening out there on the podcasting platforms, make sure you go to facebook.com/Fallen Hour. Go to YouTube and search Fallen Hour. And YouTube also, if you guys are into metaphysical properties, healing stones, crystals, things of that nature, search Stones and Bones Billings on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That being said, is that all you got there?
Well, if there's anything that people want us to cover, or legends, stories, even horror icons, or the backstories on them, let us know which ones you want.
And
us
if you
to
have
cover.
stories yourself, we asked for
if you have
stories
yourself, we actually got quite a few. Yeah. If you have any paranormal stories, or even like UFO stories, or anything just out there, we'd love to hear about it and share it.
And that'll be like piece of content for that day if you guys want to. And we give people an option whether they want their name attached to it or not. And then,
like a lot of people like it anonymous because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. So, which is like one reason why I'm like, I never talked about anything. It's like, just talk about it, put it out there. I'm like, I don't want to. So this guy's a nut.
Is that all you got for the announcements, Marcus?
I think so for now, yeah.
Okay, so we are. This podcast will be this week's podcast. We're working on a new podcast coming up next week. Hopefully, we might even drop it a lot earlier than that. We want to get busy.
Yep.
So that being said, my name is Cdale. This is Marcus, and you are listening to Fallen Hour Radio.